Catherine Merrill, 41, dark auburn hair worn loose, silver blouse, the kind of quiet elegance that comes not from money, but from a woman who has spent years learning exactly who she is and has stopped apologizing for it. A senior architect at a mid-sized firm in Seattle, Washington, the kind of professional who arrives prepared, thinks 3 steps ahead, and has learned, through considerable personal experience, that the clearest thinking happens when you are not afraid of the answer. She had not seen her family in 3 years. She had not been avoiding the reunion. She had been waiting, with the patience of someone who has done the necessary work, for the invitation to be genuine. The Merrill family, 16 people. Her parents, Douglas and Renata, at the head of a long table in one of Seattle's finer restaurants. Douglas, 68, a retired contractor who had spent a lifetime being the largest presence in any room he entered. Renata, 65, warm in the way of a woman who has used warmth over many years as a way of not seeing things clearly. Her 2 brothers and their wives, cousins, and aunt. A family that had, 3 years ago, made Catherine choose between 2 things that should never have been put in opposition: who they needed her to be and who she actually was. She had chosen herself. They had called it abandonment. She had called it survival. Both things had been true in their different ways, and 3 years of distance had not entirely resolved that. There are invitations that arrive with conditions attached that no one mentions until you are already seated. Most of us have received one at some point in our lives. The phone call that sounds like an olive branch and arrives, on closer inspection, as a leash. The reconciliation dinner that turns out to be, when the appetizers come, something else entirely. What Catherine Merrill had learned, in therapy, in 3 years of quiet rebuilding, in the particular education that comes from choosing yourself and then living with that choice long enough to understand it, was this: you cannot control what other people bring to a table. You can only control what you bring. And what you bring, if you choose it carefully, can change the entire evening. The invitation had come by email, which told Catherine something. Her mother had written it, 3 short paragraphs. We miss you. We want to make things right. Dinner, this Saturday somewhere nice. Your choice of restaurant. Catherine had read it 3 times. She had taken 2 days before responding. She had spoken to her therapist, a calm and perceptive woman named Dr. Irene Walsh, who had been helping Catherine map the terrain of her family with the careful precision of someone who understands that some landscapes require very good shoes. What do you want from this? Dr. Walsh had asked. Catherine had thought about it honestly. I want to know if anything has changed, she said, and I want to be okay either way. Those are both reasonable things, Dr. Walsh said. She had replied to the email, Saturday, a restaurant on Capitol Hill that she had chosen specifically because it was good but not extravagant, the kind of place that reflects a genuine dinner rather than a performance of one. She had made the reservation for 3. She arrived at 7:15. The restaurant was warm, low light, the hum of Saturday evening, a hostess with a pleasant manner who led her toward the reserved section. Catherine saw the table before she saw the people. It was set for 16. She stopped walking. The hostess, sensing the pause, turned with a small, questioning look. Catherine's eyes moved across the table. Her parents at the far end, Douglas already with a glass of something in hand, Renata in a dress that suggested this was a more significant occasion than a quiet reconciliation dinner. Her brothers, their wives, cousins she hadn't seen in years. Her Aunt Patricia, who had never once in Catherine's lifetime managed to keep her opinions to herself. And the menus, already open, already being considered with the specific attention. People give menus when they have decided in advance to order without restraint. She stood in the doorway of that private dining room for a moment. She felt the thing she had spent 3 years learning to feel without being governed by it. The old familiar contraction, the body's memory of what it had meant in this family. To walk into a room where the terms had already been set without her. She breathed. She went in. Catherine. Her mother stood, warm, wide-armed, the full warmth production. You look wonderful. Her father remained seated. He raised his glass. There she is, he said. The tone that had always been his. The tone that contained, beneath its surface bonhomie, the message. I am the center of this room, and we are all agreed on that. She hugged her mother. She nodded at her father. She took the empty seat, the one that had been left for her, she noticed, at the end of the table furthest from her parents, which was its own kind of message. She did not say anything about the 16 people. Not yet. She picked up the menu. She read it. The prices announced themselves immediately. This was not the restaurant she had chosen. This was somewhere considerably more expensive. A private dining room that had required, she understood now, an advance reservation and a minimum spend. The menu offered wagyu beef and whole, Maine lobster, and a wine list that began at $300 a bottle. She looked at the bottle already open and breathing at the center of the table. A label she recognized. $400 at least. She looked at her father. He was watching her with the expression she had known her entire life, the slight smile of a man who has set something up and is waiting to see how it lands. The appetizers arrived. She had not ordered them. They came in a long procession. Oysters, a seafood tower, a charcuterie arrangement that could have fed 8 people on its own. Her brother Marcus, 38, leaned toward her with the slightly guilty energy of someone who knows the shape of what is happening and has decided to be complicit rather than honest. "Good to see you, Kat," he said. "You too," she said, and meant it, partly. Marcus had never been malicious. He had simply always followed their father's gravity, the way some people follow gravity in general, without questioning whether there might be other directions. The main courses were ordered around her. She ordered a glass of water. The waiter, a young man named Peter, 20-something, efficient, with the particular alertness of someone good at his job, refilled it, without being asked, and met her eyes once with the professional neutrality of someone who has been in rooms like this before and understands his role exactly. The table filled with conversation. The kind that happens when a family has not been together in a while and is performing togetherness, rather than practicing it, loud, surface level, full of references she was not part of, and stories that predated or deliberately excluded the 3-year gap. Her father held court as he always had. He told a long story about a renovation project. He made a toast to family, he said, which was the word that had always done the most work in this family's language, carrying the weight of obligation and love in equal and undifferentiated measure. Glasses were raised. Catherine raised hers. Water. Her father looked at her glass. "No wine, Catherine?" "Not tonight," she said. A small silence. Then he moved on, which was what he did when resistance came, moved around it rather than engaging it, the way water moves around a stone. The main courses arrived. Lobsters, wagyu steaks, side dishes in abundance. The table was full of food that had been chosen by people who were not paying or who believed they were not paying. Catherine watched it arrive with the particular clarity of a woman who had spent 3 years learning to see things without the distortion of old feeling. She waited. She did not have to wait long. Her father set down his fork at the natural pause between the main course and what would be dessert. He looked at her with the smile that had always preceded the things she had most needed to be braced for. "We should sort out the bill," he said, casually, the casualness of a man who has rehearsed casual, "since you insisted on treating us." She looked at him. "I didn't insist on treating you," she said, evenly, not coldly, evenly. The way she said things now, from the place that 3 years of choosing herself had built in her. "You offered a nice dinner," her mother said, with the smooth warmth of a woman inserting herself into a moment she has been prepared for. "We thought it would be your treat." A fresh start. Catherine was quiet for 1 beat, then 2. Then she raised her hand. Peter the waiter appeared beside her, as though he had been waiting, which, she reflected, he probably had. He was good at his job. She said 2 sentences to him, quietly. He nodded once. He left. What she had said in 2 sentences was this. She had asked him to separate the check. Her meal, the water, and the small side salad. She had ordered when the appetizers arrived on 1. Everything else, itemized per person, on separate checks for the remaining 15. Peter had nodded because he was a professional, and because he had been watching this table for 2 hours and had formed his own understanding of the evening. The dessert menus arrived. Several people ordered. Catherine ordered nothing. She sat with her water and waited for the checks to come, which they did approximately 15 minutes later, Peter delivering them with the practiced neutral efficiency of a man who is serving the situation rather than participating in it. The silence that followed the arrival of individual checks was a particular kind of silence. Her father picked up his check, looked at it, looked at Catherine. "What is this?" he said. It was not quite a question. "Your dinner," she said. "I hope you enjoyed it." "You said—" "I said I would be happy to have dinner," Catherine said. "I said I looked forward to making things right." She kept her voice level, the same level she had been practicing for 3 years. the one that came not from distance but from the ground. I did not say I would pay for $4,000 of food ordered by people I haven't spoken to in 3 years. A pause. I paid for my dinner. $14. Marcus looked at the table. His wife looked at her hands. Her mother said, "Catherine, that's not—" "I came in good faith," Catherine said. She said it simply, without anger, the way you state a thing that is simply true. "I came because you asked me to. I came because I hoped, genuinely hoped, that things might be different." She looked at her parents, one and then the other. "I don't know if things are different. I don't know that yet. But I know that the first thing that happened when I walked in the door was that you had arranged something I hadn't agreed to and expected me to absorb it." Without comment, she looked at her father specifically. "That is the same pattern, Dad. That's what I left." The table was very quiet. Her father's face did something that Catherine had not seen it do in she could not remember how long. The large surface presence of it shifted, briefly, into something smaller and more unguarded. It did not stay there. He was not ready for it to stay there. But she saw it, and she filed it in the place where she kept the things that might matter later. She did not storm out. That was important to her, and it is worth saying clearly. She stayed through the desserts. She ordered a coffee when the server came back around. She had 2 conversations, one with her cousin Stephanie, who was 34 and had always been the person in this family Catherine felt most honestly connected to, and who said quietly, leaning across the empty seat beside her, "I'm glad you came. I've missed you." And one with her brother Marcus, who said nothing eloquent, but who sat beside her for a few minutes in the particular silence of a man who is doing the hard work of reconsidering something he has held for a long time. Her father paid his portion of the bill without further comment. Her mother paid hers with the tight, composed expression of a woman recalibrating. When the evening ended, the coats, the parking, the cool Seattle night outside, her mother hugged her at the door. A real hug this time. Less performance, more person. "I know tonight wasn't what we planned," her mother said. "I know it wasn't," Catherine said. "I hope it was useful anyway." Her mother looked at her, really looked in the way she rarely had, the way that requires setting down the version of your child you have been carrying and seeing the person who is actually standing in front of you. "You're different," she said, not as a complaint, more like an observation arriving late. "Yes," Catherine said, "I am." She hugged her mother back, and meant it, and walked to her car through the October night. She called Dr. Walsh the following Monday. "How do you feel?" Dr. Walsh asked. Catherine thought about it honestly, the way she had learned to think about things. "Sad," she said, "and okay, both." "That sounds right," Dr. Walsh said. "My father—" She paused. There was a moment, just a moment, where I saw something underneath. "What did it look like?" "Old," Catherine said. It looked old and tired. She was quiet for a moment. "I don't know what to do with that yet." "You don't have to know yet," Dr. Walsh said. "You showed up. You held your ground without cruelty. That's significant." "It didn't fix anything." "No," Dr. Walsh said. "It rarely does in one evening." "But it was honest," Catherine said. "Yes," Dr. Walsh said. "It was." Her cousin Stephanie called 2 weeks later. They had coffee, real coffee, just the 2 of them, in a quiet place in Capitol Hill that Catherine had actually chosen, and that cost exactly what it looked like it would cost. Stephanie told her things about the family in the 3 years Catherine had been gone, the things that had shifted, the conversations that had happened after Catherine left that Catherine did not know about. Not gossip. Something more useful. The full picture, offered by someone who had been inside it. "Your dad," Stephanie said, "talks about you more than you would think." Catherine looked at her coffee. "Not always well," Stephanie said honestly, "but more than you would think." "That's a complicated sentence," Catherine said. "He's a complicated man," Stephanie said. "He's not going to become simple." She paused, but I think Saturday scared him, in a way that might be useful. Catherine looked out the window at the October street, the leaves coming down, the ordinary beauty of a Tuesday afternoon in a city she had built her own life in, without the family she had come from and with the family. She had chosen her friends, her colleagues, Dr. Walsh, her own quiet apartment with the drafting table by the window, and the Saturday mornings that belonged entirely to her. "I don't need him to become simple," she said. "I just need to know whether it's worth trying." "I think it might be," Stephanie said. Slowly, Catherine agreed. They sat with their coffee and talked about other things. Stephanie's work, a book they had both read, the restaurant they might try next time. The ordinary texture of two people who like each other and have decided to keep choosing that. 3 months later, on a Sunday afternoon in January, Catherine's father called. Not her mother, him. She let it ring once. Then she picked up. He did not apologize immediately. She had not expected him to. He was not built for immediate. He said some things that circled the apology without landing on it. The way some men approach hard things, in widening circles, coming closer each time. She listened. At the end of it, he said, "I don't want it to be another 3 years." "Neither do I," she said. A pause, long, the kind between two people who have said a true thing and are sitting with the weight of it. "Your mother wants to cook dinner next month," he said. "Just us, no surprise guests." She almost smiled. "Just us, meaning how many?" "4," he said. "You, me, your mother, Marcus." "That sounds reasonable," she said. "Good," he said. And then, with the brevity of a man for whom this particular word cost something, "Good." She held the phone after he hung up, sat with the January light coming through the window of her apartment, across the drafting table, across the floor. Not resolution, not the end of a complicated thing, a next step, taken by an old and tired man who was, in his imperfect and late arriving way, trying. She would meet him there, not because she owed it, but because she wanted to, because the 3 years had taught her something she could not have learned any other way, that you can choose yourself and still choose them, that the leaving had not been a closing of a door but the act of building one, so that when you returned on your own terms, in your own time, with the ground solid beneath you. Perhaps this is what the long separations teach us when we use them well. Not bitterness, not the permanent architecture of a grievance, but the slow, quiet work of becoming someone who can return, when it is right to return, without losing the person they became in the leaving. We cannot change the people who shaped us. They are who they are in their fullness and their limitation, and the love we have for them does not require us to pretend otherwise. What we can do is choose how we come back to the table, what we bring, what we expect, what we will absorb, and what we will, with complete calm and 2 quiet sentences to a patient waiter, simply decline. We can come back clear-eyed. We can come back kind. We can come back steady in ourselves, which is the only way back that lasts. And we can sit across from the complicated people we came from and see them fully, their old tiredness, their occasional glimpses of something real, and decide, again, freely, with no one requiring it of us, I am still here, not because I have to be, because I choose to be. That is the whole gift. That is the one worth giving.